Hello and welcome again to another beautiful edition of The Healthy Healer. My name is Dr. Fred Moss, and I'm here with one of my good friends. We've been on a few podcasts before on his shows, and it's been a pleasure to be in his presence and watch him grow and develop over the last few years. Many of you probably know him. He's growing in stature and really does have an impactful presence in the internet, in the social world, and in making a difference with people in general. So, my guest today is Rex Sikes, and I'm going to read a little bit from his bio just to give you an idea in case you're in the small minority of people who've never heard of him. Rex Sikes is an author and speaker who is a recognized international authority on mindset, whole brain and accelerated learning, and transforming technologies, including hypnosis, neuro linguistic programming, NLP, the law of attraction, and the works of great thought leaders like Napoleon Hill and others. And that's where many of you probably know him from. Sikes has helped people in business and businesses improve their bottom line, become healthier, happier, and wealthier to accomplish their goals, live their dreams, and create the life they want. For over 4 decades, he's assisted people from all walks of life and businesses to be more successful. He consults for celebrities and millionaires who have acquired lots of things but aren't happy, and for those who want to be happy and richer to acquire some good things. Sikes' works is dedicated to helping people end suffering and begin living the life they most desire to live. He bridges the gap from where you are to where you truly want to be. He has decades of experience helping people surpass their expectations because he helps people to think differently and to feel differently about what they can accomplish. His business is helping you produce results to live a purpose driven, fulfilled life. He uses proven principles and practices from both ancient times to modern times. He called the mindset master and the attitude doctor by students and peers. Rex presents step by step tested and time proven principles, practices, and methods to help you increase your awareness and inner resourcefulness to get free from what holds you back and become capable of achieving anything you desire. He believes it's he believes that you were born to be happy, healthy, rich, and to live a significant, purposeful life. His mission is to help you live that purpose. Welcome, Rex Sikes. It's just an honor to have you on my show. I truly appreciate you being here.
Oh, my dear Dr. Fred, it's such an honor to be here. I am humbled and I always love it whenever I can hang out with you.
Really, really great. Thanks for being here again. And let's get started with the conversation. Rex, I was able to read your bio, and that, we all have really nice bios that talk about who we are. And it really is a shiny it's a scintillating bio, actually. It's a bio that has me think, like, I want to know this man. I want to know all of his expertises, and I even want to tap into him for my own self and the people I know and love. But if I have to ask you from inside, like from being Rex Sikes, who are you, Rex? Like, who are you for real, in your view?
I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy who stumbled onto uh, how to live a happy life and have worked through massive amounts of hardship and difficulty and what other people might call trauma in order to do that. But I'm just a guy like anyone else. And one of the things about me is that I like people. And I genuinely like people. I like to be connected. I like to find out about people. I like to be around people. So I'm in a people business, I guess you could say, and the entire or the entirety of what I want to do is I just want to live simply, and live passionately and live with fun and joy and delight and and to what happened for me was I used to really want to do the boot camp thing. I really wanted. I'm an actor as well, and so I would go to acting classes and go break me down, tear me a new one, destroy me so that I can build everything up. And I've done a lot of that, and a lot of the stuff from the old days in Esalen and a lot of confrontive and violent therapy groups and things like that. And what I discovered was, well, that's all fine and well for some people. We don't need to do that. We can have fun, we can live life, we can enjoy, and we can delight, and it can be far easier than we ever think. And so, to wrap up who I am, I'm somebody who at one point whether you believe the Bible story or not isn't important, but that we were, if you do as an allegory, if nothing else, there was a Garden of Eden, and we were created and put in this Garden of Eden, given dominion over everything, and then but given a choice: the tree of knowledge of good and evil, or the tree of life. And the story. They chose the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and they got ejected from the garden. And when I was about 25 years old, I went, wow, I'm here to have a good time. I mean, we're here to live, we're here to thrive, we're here to enjoy being around all of this stuff. So I need to start acting like it. I need to start celebrating and enjoying my life and not taking things so seriously. So I'm a person who would rather have fun and delight and have a sense of humor and connect with people than probably anything else.
That's really wonderful. I really get that. And I really appreciate that. One of the things that I'm noticing as you speak is this idea that you used to think you had to come through a boot camp. You had to have it stripped first. You had to have your adhesions dehisced in order to get through life. Like there was something like hard work that men have to, get blisters and get cuts and pull out their swords and fight each other. And like there's some sort of growth and development that's inherent in the boot camp mentality. The idea that, running long races and doing hard shit is really required if you're going to be a man of valor and a man of glory. But I'm hearing that you really took the challenge on with that and see that that might not be necessary on the route to being a full and honest, total, whole, and complete human being. Is that right that I'm hearing that?
Well, yeah. I mean, and I love the way you put it. The S days and the early days of, a lot of this stuff in the 60s and 70s is where I come through. And I started doing seminars and workshops about the mid 70s. And, at one time, because I had come from that, I taught that, I extolled that. I thought, this was really important. But as I evolved, as I said, when I decided, hey, life should be a celebration instead of a chore, I changed my approach. And 40 years ago, people used to criticize me because we would have music in my seminars. We'd have laughter, we'd have dancing, we'd have body work, we'd have meditation, we'd have spiritual practices, along with NLP and hypnosis and law of attraction. I mean, all these other things. And people say, you're not taking this serious enough. This is serious. You have to get serious about therapy. You have to get serious about change. And I said, you know what? Transformation is a process, but it can also be an experience. And people who come into a program or a workshop may want to have an experience that they can enjoy life and then learn how to do that once they leave the workshop. Because really the workshop begins once you leave the workshop. That's where you apply what you've learned. So if you just come in and you work really hard and then you go home and you had a miserable time for 2 or 3 days or 2 or 3 months, inside a program, you don't understand how to go out and live with joy and with, happiness and connect with other people and smell the roses and have all this. So we created wonderful positive experiences, and people would come in for 3 days. Sometimes they spend 6 weeks with me in a retreat center and different things. And today, I'm pretty much a crusader. There's too many self-help gurus out there who they have bought into the predatory capitalistic practices of, you have to have these things. You have to have the jet, the car, the watch. You have to have the trophy spouse. You have to have all these things. In order to do those, you have to work really hard. You have to sacrifice. You have to risk. You have to spend long hours. You have to sweat. You have to do all this stuff in order to be something that you're not yet now. And I work the other way around. I say, you be it first. You're happy, you're healthy, you're whole, you're everything. And then you will do what's right and appropriate to get whatever you want to have. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm in the homes and the businesses of lots of millionaires and millionaires who go, look, I have all this stuff, but I'm not happy. And one guy said, look, I have all this. I looked into it. I had no idea. And then at the end of the day, I'm stuck being me. And I was like, well, that could be pretty cool. And he goes, yeah, but it's not. I don't like me. And so this is the where some people find themselves. And so what I want to do is I want to help people find, the reasons to like themselves, but to do it in a loving, kind, gentle, wonderful, fun, permissive way, as opposed to slapping them around, which is what a lot of people do.
I really appreciate that, Rex. I think I'm more along the lines of you, and I have several friends and colleagues as well who go the other direction. I have a particular friend who I'm watching, and really he's a close friend and an ex-coach of mine, and I'm not even going to name him. You probably know him. He's a wonderful person. He's totally cool dude. Like he's totally bringing it. He's totally bringing it to men. He's totally bringing it to humans. It's his love for humanity is unquestionable. He's an absolute brilliant rock star, a total like powerhouse of a human. And his way of bringing transformation is through the hard road. Like,
Mhm.
you know, the way to come in is to blister yourself. The way to come in is to fight for yourself. The way to come in is to declare and to do what he calls as hard shit. Like actually go in there and be the man who has taken on hard shit. And in some ways, like you could almost say it's like through some sort of initiation or some sort of brutality, that the notion is that that's the only way to mature is through some degree of brutality rather than growing from exactly the beautiful person that you are right at this very moment. And this is where I feel like you're tapping into. And this is where I recently have been finding myself. When I listen to these people or when I hear them online, I get the impression that I'm not enough the way I am. That what they're trying to convince me is that in order to grow, in order to be big, in order to be strong, in order to be mature, in order to be a man, in order to be a contributing, rich, wealthy human being, I have to be different than who I am now. I need to go get X, Y, or Z. I need to have particular items or particular accolades or particular accomplishments that then add to whoever I am, because right now I'm clearly inadequate. Right now I have only what I have. And if I had enough to be great, I would already know myself to be great. But this is like a circular reasoning. The reason I don't know myself to be great is because I'm falling for that way of being. The truth is, if I would acknowledge that I am a spectacular, you know, human divine influence force presence as I am right now, and go with that be and do and have cascade that you just you know unfolded for us, the possibility exists that I could be happy today. I could actually be satisfied with life today, satisfied with who I am, make a maximal contribution, be entirely whole and complete and full integrity, or at least, you know, nearly full integrity as a man in harmony with my universe and making a difference with the people who know, care, and love me, in without having to be different, without having to learn to be different or more or better than I am now. Am I still speaking the same language as you here,
Yeah,
Rex?
yeah, very much so. I mean, there's a concept that's a wonderful concept on the one hand and a horrible concept on the other, and that's the canny, constant, never-ending improvement. Well, you got to be done sometime. You know, you can't just constantly. I mean, evolution is wonderful, and we all grow and you know, and hopefully get better, or we improve ourselves from yesterday, you know, to today and and tomorrow. But to have to be in that kind of hamster wheel of self-improvement is not, I don't believe, what life is all about. And that's sadly, you know, I said predatory capitalism before, and I mean that seriously in the sense that a lot of the gurus and thought leaders and people who are promoting that very concept that you have to work hard, you have to be better, you have to always. It's really not that much different than the societal conditioning that we're brought up in, where they give us exams and they tell us they mark, you know, the percentage wrong and say you could do better next time, and they you know, we're constantly put down for not being good enough and encouraged to be good enough and to work really hard, you know, and to toe the line so that you're a good citizen and you do all these things and you're appropriate. I mean, it's part of the conditioning process, you know, and the American process as well as elsewhere, to work really hard and to, you know, be a solopreneur or an entrepreneur or a trendsetter or a pioneer, or to do something, but to always be, you know, pursuing stardom, whether it's in sports or math or accounting or uh, whatever. And so people continually work hard on themselves and treat themselves harder. I say this: when we're born infinite possibilities, infinite opportunities, infinite resourcefulness. And we're this little lump of flesh who's come into the world, maybe with some genetic baggage, you know, but we're really kind of an open um, offering, you know, and we, you know, make our needs known. We're pretty much asleep for the first 2 years. We're pretty much in, you know, in our brain waves are pretty much in the theta zone, kind of in the hypnotic zone until we're at 7. And during that time, we're primarily conditioned. As Aristotle said, "Show me the 7-year-old, and I'll show you the, you know, the adult." So, we develop a personality based on the people around us and the experiences and everything else and the education and the media and, whatever. And and we live from that a lot. And then the people who are about change use that very same approach to say, here's how you have to change. You have to work hard, you have to sweat, you have to do this thing, you have to correct all the things that are wrong, you have to strive for this, you have to strive for that. And it's no different than how we were really kind of originally raised. And I go, yes, okay, but then when does that leave you having lots of love and lots of joy and lots of happiness? And happiness is a choice. It's not something, I mean, I think we're born happy for the most part, and then we're trained out of it. So it's learning how to reconnect with kind of who we authentically are and who we were or are before we were conditioned, and to let go and release and be free so that we can find out who we are and who we can and how we can express ourselves, because it's an opportunity. And again, I said infinite opportunity, infinite possibility, and infinite resources, and I mean that. And yet most people don't get to experience life that way.
Hmm. It's true, Rex. And yeah, this idea of like continuous and never-ending improvement. You speak to the flaw of that way of thinking, as if and I've heard Tony Robbins speak to that before, of course, and I've heard even Werner Erhard and the Landmark folks speak towards something like a mountain with no top. That's really all we have here is to work and 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 work in order to live the life that we're meant to live. And I actually, I wonder, as I listen to you, if you're really taking that head on, if you're really challenging that notion, and that maybe we don't have to do all that in order to live a splendid life, full of joy, full of happiness, full of satisfaction, full of love. Is that what you're saying? Is that we don't have to acknowledge that there's just a whole lot of hard blister creating work out there in order to enjoy life?
Well, I mean, yes. I mean, my approach is kind of backwards to what a lot of society will push on you. I start with the premise of, why not just be happy and whole and complete and loving and kind and compassionate and caring and all the things that you want to be? Go first, be that, and then from that you'll find out how you do everything else. It's an attitude. It's the mindset. It's the Neville Goddard said, he wasn't the first to say it, but he said it in such a beautiful way. He said, live from the feeling of the wish fulfilled, as if it's already the case. In
Yeah.
acting, we pretend, or we take on through method acting the characteristics or the attributes of somebody else by acting as if we're that person. So there's a certain amount of, let's say, play involved, or a certain amount of pretend involved. But if you pretend long enough, the great hypnotist Milton Erickson said you can pretend anything and master it. And then we also know the saying that, a lie repeated often enough becomes substituted as the truth. So Napoleon Hill said, if you can conceive it and believe it, you can achieve it. He didn't say you will achieve it. When he was asked, why did you say will? He said, because I don't know what you're going to do. You may or may not do anything with it, and most people won't. But I start with the premise that you're perfect as you are, and you don't know that. And the only reason you have problems is because you think you have problems. You think it's a problem. If you consider something a problem, it is a problem. You're declaring it so. You're making it so. Not that there aren't things that happen in the world, but when you look at the world and you label them and judge them, before humans arose on the planet as a consciousness, there were earthquakes and fires and lightning strikes, and dinosaurs perished and animals died, and thunderstorms came through, and there was no one there to call it good or bad, right or wrong, or anything. There was no judgment. There was no label. The things just were. And when you watch the news nowadays, when somebody loses their home in a tornado or a fire, they interview people, and one person goes, "Oh, I'll never be able to live. I don't know what I'm going to do. It's terrible." And I don't mean to be making fun of them, because it is a difficult, dire, and horrible situation. But another person goes, "It's just a house. It's just a house. We'll rebuild. We'll figure it out." And they say, "Well, I don't have any money." Well, that's okay. There are people in the planet who have nothing. They eat dirt, they have nothing, and they are happy, they're smiling, they've got wonderful relationships, and they live their life for however long they live their life in joy. And then there are people who have everything they could possibly want, and they're discontent, happy, they hate each other, they hate themselves, and so when it all boils down to it, it's our choice. And it's whether we discover that we have a choice. Number one, that's truly important because a lot of people aren't aware that they have choice. So I want to introduce them to that concept. And two, if they choose, I always do this, doctor. It's dog shit or diamonds. It's your choice. And a lot of people choose dog shit. I mean, they really are dog crap. I should be careful what I say here, but but they could be choosing diamonds. They look at circumstances in their life and they go, "This sucks. This is terrible," and so they make that judgment, and then they live from those feelings, from those mindsets, from those declarations, and from those behaviors. And no one has to. No one has to. They can be different, and it may not be. And some people say, "Well, that's not as easy as it sounds." Okay, so what? I mean, so what? So it's not as easy as it sounds. It's still a whole lot better in my estimation to live with joy and fun and intrigue and fascination like you were when you were a child. You know this. I mean, children learn more through play and through role play and through games and through chasing butterflies and playing with sticks than they do when they sit in school and are given stuff to memorize and regurgitate. And they spend 12 years in primary school and in do you know 80% of what we learn in college is forgotten within the first 6 months of graduation? So
6 minutes, dude.
Really? So I mean, the way children are. What's the worst thing that you could say to an adult right now? Stop acting like a child.
Right.
I say, no, act like a child. The child doesn't necessarily mean wild and unruly and untamable and all that good stuff. It means open and innocent and passionate and playful and curious and captivated and fascinated. And adults go, I've been there, I've done that. Life is hard. I live in a bowl of cherries, but all I get is the pits. That's attitude. That's mindset. That's the conditioning that people live from, and no one has to live that way.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that. That's really great stuff, and I hope our listeners are catching up with that. It's really great, Rex, and it qualifies you as a world leader to just speak to that. I know that you're, when quoting Neville or quoting Napoleon Hill, and quoting some of the people that the NLP geniuses that you've studied, you have been able to come up with what seems like an entirely simplistic way of living, that essentially you're a reductionist. You just are like, let's just go back to when we were 3 and be as simple. Like, it's not stuff that you have to learn from journals. It's not stuff that you have to learn by reading and studying all the geniuses of the world. It's something that is inherent, and we all know it from the day that we're born, or from the day we at least begin to socialize in any open way, that this is our route to happiness, that our route to happiness get taken away from us. Now, I don't know. I do have a question for you that might be off the beaten trail, but I want to ask you about it. There is something on the internet this week I've been watching called The Interview. Have you seen this thing, The Interview?
No.
Okay, I won't ask you about it then, but I want you to, next time you get a chance, to take a listen to it. Like, they're saying that it's the most important interview of all time, that it takes on Charles Darwin number 2, and it's actually speaking in a lot of ways to what you're saying. So I wondered if you had already aligned or had an opinion about it, but I'm sure you'll see it in your feed, especially now that the algorithm has heard me ask you about it. They'll probably pick it up and drop it in your feed as soon as you get back on Facebook.
I'll be hit with it 50 times this way from between now and tomorrow. Yeah.
That's right. Exactly. So I want to ask you a little bit about this book that's sitting behind your shoulders. I've seen a lot of people on the internet holding up that book and very happy to have read it. And I know that you're happy and proud of the book and what it represents. Can you give us a little clue of what it represents? If it's more, how it represents either more or less what you've been saying, or what is the expansiveness that this book points to, that when we take on buying this book or reading the book called Life on Your Terms, is it more along the lines of what you've already said in this conversation, or what is it that you're pointing to in your book that our listeners can get a preview from the actual horse's mouth?
Wow. Well, it's a little bit of both. It's a celebration. It's called Life on Your Terms because really, people need to claim back their life, and then the subtitle is Create the Life That You Want. People forget that we are actively involved in living and that we have a say in the matter. Some people, I don't believe in the law of attraction, right? So people think, okay, I'm just going to sit here, I'm going to wish, and I'll attract things like a magnet. When I'm more convinced that it's the law of creation. You take an active role in what it is that you want to create, and you make that happen. And how you do that, I talk about in the book. I am, as you said, a reductionist. I like to simplify things. There's a lot of myths and lies, both intentional or, there are some people out there who just don't know any better, and then those who are there who intentionally deceive. So I like to go through and I like to myth bust and try and set the record straight. From my experience of doing this for about 50 years now, and to help people go from where they want to be to where they can be. And so it's simple, it's easy, it's a step-by-step digestible process, that's fun and delightful, along with everything that I've just said. But and there are people who just absolutely adore the book. They read it over and over and over again, which is what I encourage people to do anyway. But I talk about why there's no such thing as self-sabotage, and how do you make, that's one of chapter 3, and people seem to really gravitate to that and ask me about that a lot in different,
Can you say something about that today? What is it? Why is there no such thing as self-sabotage?
Well, the brain is really just a feed forward loop. It can only say yes. It's the reason why when you say, don't think of a clown riding on the back of a blue elephant, you say, well, too late, right? Then if you say to Google, don't tell me about giraffes, it will give you everything about giraffes. And the brain is a lot like that. It works by association and different things. So if you say, why am I so stupid? Your brain goes, well, here's why. And you come up with all the reasons why you're stupid. If you say, how come I'm so marvelous? Your brain will go, here's why. Now, the difference between why for some people it's hard to say, why am I so marvelous, and get an answer, is because they don't ask that question very much. They ask the other one a lot. And so the brain just goes there and does that. And when they try and ask the other one, it's kind of unfamiliar territory, but it can be just as familiar. And here's the thing. Our brains are only really designed to do 2 things. Well, 3 really, but they're designed to help us survive. And people talk about this thing called a negativity bias. I don't believe there's any such thing as a negativity bias. It's another spurious, stupid, silly notion. There's a survival bias. Your brain is designed to keep you alive by pointing out those things in the environment that could harm or hurt you, whether those are physical reality or emotional or mental or perceived or whatever. It's designed to try and keep you alive. That's a gift. That is a gift that you should be so happy that that's a gift. It's like having the nerve endings in your fingers so that if you touch a hot stove, you pull it away so that you don't burn off your fingers. That's a gift. And yet when people stub their toe, all of our attention goes to the toe and the pain and the hurt, but all the rest of the body might be totally fine, and it's working perfectly well. And all of our cells and everything is working incredibly well to keep us alive and to keep us driving. The other thing the brain does is it wants us to thrive. It wants us to have a good life so that we want to have sex so that we keep the species going. So it keeps us from dying, and it tries to keep us alive. And how does it do that? It learns what it learns through repetition and exposure while we're growing up and through our experiences. And it sets those down as neural pathways or habits or patterns that we then live out most of our life unconsciously. They're automatic. A habit is something that's automatic and reliable. It doesn't happen one time and then not the other time when the same conditions come up to set it. So the brain is a very reliable, very life-affirming kind of thing. And what happens is the brain, in my opinion, doesn't care whether you smoke or don't smoke. It doesn't care whether you like something or don't like something. It doesn't care whether you're a good person or not a good person. It does what it's learned to do. So if you've learned to smoke, if you develop that habit, the brain thinks it's not a person thinking I'm smoking, but this is what I do, essentially. So if you now say, I want to quit smoking, the brain perceives that as a threat. It goes, no, you smoke, you're a smoker, this is what you do. And you go, well, I'm going to try and quit smoking. And so every doubt, every fear, every worry, every anxiety, everything to prevent you from doing that, to keep you inside that comfort zone of smoking, starts coming up by association or whatever, to keep you the same, to keep you consistent, because that's what the brain knows. It's not doing it to harm you. It's not doing it because it doesn't like you. It's not trying to sabotage you. It's not trying to, it's trying to keep you consistent because that's what it does. It thinks that that's what's important for, and when I say thinks, I don't mean it the way we think about it. It's just doing what it does. It's a series of processes and patterns and neurochemical, electrochemical impulses that are squirting, that kind of thing. So we got to I can't say it now. We got to take the human element out of the brain. Just say it's doing these things. It's not doing them to harm you. It's not trying to sabotage you. We think it is, but that's because we've changed, not it. It's consistent. We aren't. And that's the good news, because that means that we can say, our conscious mind can say, The subconscious, the brain that I'm talking about, is billions, trillions, trillions of times more powerful than this little conscious mind. In the same way that you're aware, more probably more than most, that what we can attend to consciously in terms of what hits our eye or what hits our ear or what hits our nose is very, very small compared to all of the data that's coming into us. So the subconscious mind is so powerful, and the conscious mind is good for about 40 bits of information, and it's good for planning and directing, setting an intention, for remembering, recalling, and doing certain things, but it's not what carries anything out. So the conscious mind says, I'm going to quit smoking, and doesn't know how to tell the brain, okay, carry out not smoking, because the brain doesn't know how to carry out not smoking because it only knows smoking. So it does what it does, and then we get mad at it and mad at ourselves and loathe ourselves or whatever, and think that we're no good. Really, it's working perfectly well. And if you embrace that and you understand that and you understand how to work with it, then it's not that big of an issue to stop smoking.
Interesting. Yeah, very interesting. So I want to ask you a question about how you got to be who you got to be. You mentioned that you've been through your own trials and tribulations, a lot of changes, a lot of dumps and falls, and probably the face hitting the cement here and there, and getting up with some skin bruises and some broken bones, maybe at least figuratively or emotionally. Can you give us an idea of what the rocky road has been to lead you to this place where there's at least a formula for being happy, joyous, loving, and somewhat free, just like we are? It seems like the route to get to someone who is interested in doing this in a reductionist fashion naturally is paved by some hardships that have been earned along the way. And I'd like you to speak to whichever ones you feel comfortable that have led you to be this sort of liberation, this voice of liberation that we, as we are, can experience joy and happiness.
Wow. Well, I don't think that I'm that much different from anybody else. I mean, we all humans have known what we call suffering, and most of all of us know what we would call happiness or some joys. My childhood was an unremarkable childhood, but I grew up in a middle class family with parents who loved me the best that they could love me, and got educated, and whatever. But I didn't feel, like many people, I didn't feel particularly loved or valued or great. That I mean, so you know, I kind of lived my life with this "woe is me" attitude, and at the same time, I wanted to be an actor as a child. I was put into acting classes around the age of 3 and 4. By the time I was 6, I wanted to be a mystic because I was raised Catholic, and I thought that the priest had some kind of mystical connection with God. So I thought, if I could do that. So I asked my mom to read me books like, the Bhagavad Gita and Napoleon Hill and different people that we had in the house, and she did. And we would watch movies on Saturdays, like the Marx Brothers and stuff. And I wanted to, so I wanted to do both. But growing up was growing up. But by the time I got into my teens and into my 20s, I write about some of it in my book, where I was misprescribed a fatal combination of drugs when I had injured my back through a skydiving thing, and it, I used the word robbed me of my life. I had amnesia and all sorts of problems as a result, and other associated drugs that I took, and alcohol and everything that led me down a very deep rabbit hole of despair. I tried to kill myself. And I mean, if they're that interested, they could get the book. But I've lost all of my money a number of times. I've been at gunpoint more than a half a dozen times. I've been robbed. I've been beaten. I've been, and I don't really talk about much of that because I feel like all of that was part of my journey. And at the time I was creating as much of that as I create the good stuff today. It was all part of me going like stepping stones in the pond kind of thing, from one thing to the other. And I just didn't realize how blessed I was going through all this difficulty. You can always look back and connect the dots, as Job said, but you can't look forward and see it. So going through it, I didn't understand it at the time. And I would go, why did this happen to me? And how did this happen to me? And why am I such a loser? And I really loathed myself, and I hated my life at different parts of it. But also, with what I talk about in the book is at a certain point, I locked myself. I was about 25 years old, and I locked myself in my apartment because I couldn't face. I'd lost all of my friends. I'd lost my career. I'd lost the girl that I loved. I just everything was gone, and I didn't know how to face the world, and I couldn't come out, and I was embarrassed, and hated myself. So I said, I'm not going to leave my apartment. I'm not going to actually leave the lazy boy rocker reclining chair that I had in my apartment until I can face the world with confidence. And I sat in this chair, and I'd been within NLP and hypnosis and meditation for many years, and I knew all this stuff from Napoleon Hill since I was a kid, but I hadn't really applied any of it. I used it, but it wasn't a habit for me. It wasn't my default. It wasn't the fallback stuff. It was stuff that I had to kind of struggle to make work. And so I sat in this chair, and the first part of it was, why am I such a loser? How did this happen? Why doesn't anybody like me? What did I do to deserve this? How would I ever get this person back? And after about 3 weeks, I realized I don't want to know any of this stuff. This isn't helping me. To know why I'm a loser doesn't help me. I want to know how I can get out and meet people and make friends and get my friends back. And what do I need to do to feel more confident? And how can I start feeling good about myself? And what is there in me that's good, not what is in me that was bad? And I started to direct my mind away from the stuff that was problematic and toward how would life be different if I were different? If I were already confident, how would I be behaving? Where would I be going? How would I look? Would I look like a loser? Would I look like somebody successful? If I were confident, where would I feel it in my body? If I were happy, how would I be walking and driving? And it's kind of some of the same stuff, from like acting. If I were a rich person, how would I walk? How would I talk? How would I eat? How would I drive? So if I were happy and healthy and whole and complete, what would be going on for me? And as I started to direct my mind in that way, I suddenly went, I know how to do this. I know how to do this. Now, when I finally did emerge from my apartment, I emerged more like a toddler, not like some, giant running out going, oh, I can take on the world. But what it did was it freed me up from all of this old stuff and all this stuff where I was wallowing and hurting and see, if you what people don't realize is you do have a choice. You either perpetuate the problem and you perpetuate the past, or you turn and you shift and you start creating a new future, or you start living a new way, or you start doing something differently. Is that choice. It's that dog crap or diamonds. And I understood that I had been creating dog crap. And what really transformed me was I realized that, okay, I'm like 25 years old. And I walked on this planet for 25 years. And at one day I thought, wow, I have walked on the planet for 25 years. And I've done massive leg damage. I've torn all the tendons and the ankles and, through sports and different things. I mean, just a lot of it. And I thought, I have all these leg injuries and foot injuries and things. I have never, ever been grateful for my feet to have carried, and my legs to carry me around on the planet. I can walk. Other people can't walk. I have legs. Other people don't have legs. I have feet. Nobody has feet. And I'm lying on the floor in my apartment thinking, I love my toes. I love my toenails. I love my bones. I love the fascia. I love the tendons. I just went through everything and started thinking. And then I worked my way up my body. And then I went into the systems, the endocrine system, the respiration system, the circulatory system, the eliminate. I was just exploding with gratitude for myself and everything. And I came out going, wow, this is amazing. I've never felt like this. And it dawned on me at that time that, because some people believe we go around millions of times, and some people believe we live here once, and some people believe we go to heaven, and some people believe we go to the dust and whatever. And I just went, if this is my shot, if this is my life, I'm on the planet, and I act like I don't belong here, and I do belong here. And if you believe the Garden of Eden story, then you were put here, that kind of, we were put on the planet for dominion. And I thought, wow, I own the planet. This is my planet. This is my life. This is my time. I am an owner of the planet. And I came out, saying, I own LA, kind of thing. And people get mad at me going, oh, you're so arrogant. I go, no. I share it with other people. We're all co-owners, but the planet, and it was suddenly that I realized I had a responsibility to myself, I had a responsibility to other people, I had a responsibility to the environment around me, that I'm here and I have an impact, that I can have an impact. I can help, I can assist, I can help guide. I never take that lightly, and I never take it too seriously. I love to connect with people. I love to meet people. I love to have conversations with people, because it's in these exchanges, I've been doing this for like 50 years. I've never wanted to be on stage like Tony Robbins, the way Tony Robbins is on stage. I'd rather be working with 10, 12, 50, maybe 100 people. Something I've done to 20,000, people in a stadium and stuff. But you can't interact with 20,000 people. Even 100 people is pretty hard to interact with. So, I love working in small groups. I love connecting with people. I love getting to know people because people are incredible resources. They're people like yourself and other people who I learn from, who are my mentors, who I get to. So people who comes into my seminars and workshops, if I'm sitting there and this person's an accountant, that person's a Marine, and this person's a school teacher, and that person's whatever, those are all things that I don't do. So I benefit by being around people. So I realize that there's this incredible exchange. There's the universe respires, we breathe in and breathe out. The universe breathes in and out. All of animal and plant life breathes in and breathes out. We're so connected. And it happened from locking myself in this room and going, how many different ways can I discover that I'm truly an amazing person, as opposed to how many ways can I figure out how broken I am and why things don't work out. And that shift I created in 1980 is called directed questions. Is how you use questions to direct your mind to the outcomes that you want by living from the feeling of the wish already fulfilled. So, and Neville and I had something in common before I even really knew much about Neville.
Awesome. There you go. And it's really, really great news. So really beautiful, and it really does fit. I didn't know all that about you, and I appreciate your candid and open honesty about that. Very interesting story. And I appreciate the pain, the suffering, and the recovery that you went through during those several weeks inside of that apartment, and learning how to be of massive gratitude for everything in life, and just having that kind of absorb your entire soul, like the opportunity to take what's here, take what's given to you, what's God's God's contribution to who you are, and to honor it, then to be grateful about it, and then to express it, and then be that person the rest of your life.
Well, something occurred to me, and that was this: that I had a lot of physical pain in my life. Many people have, and we don't really feel, we don't remember, we don't revivify pain very well as an organism. We can remember that it hurt a lot, but we don't necessarily associate into it and feel it again, and relive that pain. And I went, then why would we ever do that psychically or emotionally? Why don't we just let it go?
Yeah.
If I, because women who give childbirth go, oh yeah, it was horrible, it was painful, and then they do it all over again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So so pain is there. It's again, it's a signal for us that, hey, there's better things, and there's opportunities, and there's resources and things. I'm not saying. I will say this. Some people go, well, that's very Pollyanna, and I go, do you realize what a gift Pollyanna was to the world? The ability to look at things and find the good in them is truly a remarkable attitude or skill to cultivate. So to look for what can be a positive inside of what appears to be completely negative doesn't mean to ignore the negative. It's like the notion that people say positive thinking is there's no weeds, there's no weeds, there's no weeds. That's not positive thinking. That's just being delusional. If you think if you have to weed your garden, you go, oh, I have a garden, I don't know how to weed it. I'm going to have to learn how to weed it, or I'm going to have to find somebody who can weed it for me, but I can get my garden weeded, and I either do it myself or I can have someone do it. And it's the ability to assume that there is a way, and that you can discover it, and that you are enough to be able to do that. You're always already enough. Most people just don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's maybe learning an additional skill or something, but we're good. We're really remarkable, resourceful, resilient people, and few people think that.
It is really somehow we have a default towards the opposite. We land on tearing like ripping ourselves into shreds as a way of default, which is a really interesting choice that we are making. And it seems like it takes an actual effort to bolster ourselves up in the world of gratitude.
Well, it does. In that, I mean, think about it. The words that children hear more than any other word is no. They go to school and everything is marked in big red letters, no. Or some, really crummy teachers will put, nothing, you're stupid, you need to do this over, or whatever. So we're not really encouraged to be who we are. We're encouraged to fit into a certain, like being a square hole in a round square peg in a round hole. Everybody's trying to be forced into this kind of cookie cutter mold of how we should be and what we think we should be. And there are really wonderful teachers out there and really horrible teachers out there. But we get conditioned to not like ourselves very much, not love ourselves very much, not accept ourselves very much, and that becomes our mental habits. It becomes our default. And then learning to do differently. If you wanted to learn to juggle, you have to understand, all of us, that you're not necessarily a born juggler, and it's not going to happen instantly, and that dropping the balls is part of it. But if you practice a little bit every day and you go, I really like juggling, or I really want to be juggling, then ultimately, if you stick with it, you'll get good at it. And the better you get at it, the more you enjoy it. And the more you enjoy it, the better you get at it. And the same thing is true with positive thinking or feeling good about yourself. The more you do it, the better you get. And the better you get, the easier it gets. And the easier it gets, the better, So, but you got to start. And what happens with most people is they don't. That's why Napoleon Hill said 98% of the population, or only 2 out of 100 people, will ever do anything about changing their life experience.
And this is where you come in. This is where you come in as a coach. So if people wanted to really get started with you, if people wanted to learn a little bit more about you and maybe walk into your world, or maybe attend one of your programs, or have a conversation with you, or step into, what it means to be in your life on your terms ecosystem, how would they find you? I have it up here that you're rexsikes.com. Is there anywhere else you'd like them to find?
No, they can go right there, and or from there they can email support and let me know. They can get my book from there. And if they get my book, what they do is they go to rexsikes.com, and there's this thing about Rex's book. If they get my book like from Amazon and they come back and they use their receipt code, I'll give them a $497 training at absolutely no charge.
Wow.
It's a bonus for getting the book, because it's called the Mastery Loop. It's something I've been teaching for 40 years. Is how we master our skills, our emotions, our mindset, our behaviors, and our speech in order to get better results. I will gift them that in exchange for buying the book, so that they can accompany the book. In fact, they'll get the training if they order it before they get the book on Amazon, if they ship it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
that's very cool.
But I'm everywhere. People can, social media and social media, or not social media, but search engines, and I'll come up all over the place.
Awesome. That's really great, Rex. Is there anything you want to say? If you have that one last thing that podcasters like to ask their guests, is there one thing you want to say to the listenership here?
First off, Dr. Fred, I wanted to say it's an honor to be with you. The questions, the conversations, the insights that you share have been very meaningful to me here, being here today, as well as elsewhere. You are a man of great integrity and honor, and somebody, a person who I just love to listen to and learn from. Your journey and what you have discovered, and how you have approached, and how you help heal the world, and what you've gone through. Everybody should know, and everybody should know you and get to know you even that much better. And I'm so blessed that I do know you, and that we have the relationship that we do, and I hope it gets closer and better all the time as well. Thank you. But yeah, I mean, people reach out to me. Whether it's a book or Attitude Activator or something I have, it's a great thing, or a program. If you want, let's begin a conversation. Let's begin a relationship, because to me, I have students for 40, 50 years. We stay in touch. We've been friends. We do things. Some have, they surpassed themselves in what they could ever think about in terms of money or happiness or relationships or whatever, but the one thing that we do is we stay in common and appreciate each other and uplift and edify. So, reach out to me. That's why I'm here. As long as I'm here, that's why I'm here.
I hope you guys all get this when you're listening and watching him. And that is that he really means it. This is exactly what Rex is. It's Rex through and through. That's what I know him as. That's what anyone who knows him as. Rex is dead serious about being here to help you, or to assist you, or to befriend you, or to just bring you a contribution of how to have the best life that you deserve, and even more and beyond in the unimaginable. So thanks again, Rex, for blessing us with your presence this evening. Totally great to be with you. We will talk soon. Beautiful to see you. You look great. And I'm really glad that things are going in your direction these days. Really wonderful.
Thank you kindly. And I so appreciate this, and just want to encourage everybody, hey, celebrate everything.
All right. Terrific. Thanks, Rex.
Thank you.